Alright, we're gonna go for another random review today of something. This one's pretty much just cutesy, I guess. I don't know, it's something I just saw, and when I just see something, I read it. Uh, if you haven't watched any of the other reviews I've done, I'm gonna give you a little, general rating at the start, and then I'll go a little more in depth into why I gave it that rating. Yeah, I don't know. Like, comment, subscribe, blah blah blah, basic YouTuber shite. And we'll be getting into it. What am I gonna give this? 7. Alright. It's fine. Yeah, that's all you need to know for that part. Now we're gonna get into the gist of the story. So, what's it called? Kuma bear, right? Basically just bear. I'm pretty sure that's literally just bear, so it's like bear 4 times. That's the English title. Why would I give this a 7? Well, it's basic. Kind of gives me like Saturday morning cartoon vibes, where it's just like, we're going to do some random thing this week and then move on the next, right? Basic idea of the story, this girl gets isekai'd because yes, every story I have to cover is an isekai. She gets isekai'd into her, because of her favorite game, and is basically forced into wearing this like bear outfit because it's like the special reward I guess she was given for being brought to this world. And it's really OP, so again, typical OP isekai story, right? What would I classify that? I mean, in terms of like OP isekai stories, this one doesn't really have any depth to it. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. For this review, I've tortured myself by reading 11 volumes, which I think is somewhere around 100 chapters. A lot of reading of something that's kind of mid. It's basically just, monster of the week vibe. What's the problem here? She solves the problem, and then they move on, right? It's a pretty typical isekai thing. I mean, there's like that 300-year-old witch story. Same idea, right? Just kind of, meeting a new person, what's their problem, solving the problem, moving on. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's really what it boils down to. In terms of like the idea of like the game that she played before, there's really not much, I would say, in terms of the game that she played before. She doesn't really mention much from the game. Really the only semblance of the game is just the fact that there are levels. I mean, there are levels for her. I don't even know if there are levels for other characters because they don't really talk about it. But yeah, I mean, that exists. Yeah, I mean, really, there's not a lot to say. It's like a cutesy monster of the week isekai story where it's just, they're always meant to be like, cute characters. Like, oh, she's wearing like a bear outfit. Everyone calls her Miss Bear, things like that. And then she goes around and, all of her skills have to be bear related, otherwise they're weaker. Yeah, she never, her, like, as a person, really doesn't have, like, she doesn't have any problems throughout the series, really. It's more so just her solving other people's problems, and then just, her getting involved with other things, right? Like, there's really not much in the way of problems that deal with her, specifically. She's like an okay character, kind of like that relaxed style that just can do anything kind of character. It's relatively generic. I would say there's most of the characters in the series are relatively bare bones. Again, maybe you're not like me and you're not jaded, but I've read enough where you're going to see almost every personality once or twice, and I feel like that is not any different here. Really the only two main people to keep track of would be her and her little friend, I guess you could say, the first person she meets in that world, who was kind of like, you know, she butchers all the monsters that she fights and just kind of comes along on little journeys here and there. There are other characters, but this is one of those series where there's like a million different characters and every single chapter basically has a new character. So I don't think they're necessarily as, you know, relevant. I think some to keep note of might be like the Lord. That's a pretty... He shows up multiple times. This girl's family appears periodically. Yeah, and then like some of the Lord's family shows up here and there. Other than that, I mean, most of the characters are kind of just... They show up when they need to be there, right? And they're all pretty basic. I will say, out of all the characters in the series, if I had to pick one that's at least kind of fun, I guess, and interesting, outside of just being like a trope, she's not bad. You know, like a hardworking young girl trying to keep her family going, and like her mother was sick, and she's trying to help them and everything. Like that's sweet, right? I would say like the basic idea for the story is just it's like cutesy and just sweet, and you're kind of just sitting there like, aw. You're watching everything just like, oh, that's cute. There's really not like a lot of depth other than just that's cute. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's like a fun read. Like if you have nothing better to do, it is a nice little read. It's cute. And I you know, I think it was like am I going to say like, oh, you know, like if someone asked me like, hey, I want to read something really good, is this going to be anywhere near the top of my recommendations? No. But I think if someone just asked like, oh, I want like a, you know, just a fun little read that I can just in my off time just pop in, read a volume, pop out, then I think this is good. It kind of has that older style of manga feel where like you could jump in halfway through and kind of get it. I would say it's kind of akin to a cartoon. Of course, this one does have an anime, so if you want to watch the anime, fair. I'll say this: anime versus manga, like it's super similar. I think the only really different part about it would just be like the art is. I would say like it's slightly more. It feels very like refined in the anime at times, which I like it or not. I don't know. I'm not gonna say which one I prefer. I mean, I think they both look cutesy. I think the anime might be going a little more into the cutesy department, but hey, whatever. I'm the kind of guy that likes reading like romance stories and like just cute stories. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you, so I kind of like it. It's not bad. Yeah, I don't know. There's not really a lot of depth here. It's just like a cute slice of life, where you're just kind of watching them go like, ah, or like, oh, that's sweet. You feel like like a grandmother watching like her kid go out on adventures, or like her grandson or your granddaughter, and just like, oh, that's sweet. Oh, look at you, honey. Good job. It's that's the gist of it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. I think it's a fun read. It's just there is no depth to this. There's nothing on, like, through these eyes. they are lifeless. Yeah, like there's some backstory given to different characters here and there, but they're all super generic. Nothing special. It is literally just like it's just hitting that sweet tooth, right? Where it's just like, oh, that's cute. That is it. That is the main goal, that is the purpose, and that is the only thing this thing does. It is just hitting that little sweet tooth of like, oh, that's cute. You're not going to get any deep storytelling or anything. I mean, it's alright. Like, no, and I will, okay. Don't get me wrong, there are some moments where it's like, oh, that's actually kind of like, whoa, that's an interesting little development or whatever. Like the story points with the Lord, for example, and like, you know, having all the corrupt nobles and stuff. But it's also like short. It's like, I don't even know, like 5 chapters, I feel like. It's so short. And most of it is just her going to a different place. They have a problem, she fixes the problem, she leaves. Like it's not really anything deeper than that. Like I feel like there are moments where it's a little deeper, but the main goal I feel of the series is just to be cutesy and just a nice little slice of life to just do something, like, you know, to just spend your time reading here and there. Like there are some deeper moments, but you know, not that big of a deal. I will say though, one thing I thought was kind of funny, her grandfather, like she like flashes back and she's like, oh yeah, he told me like I should make friends and stuff like that. Now I'm finally finding that like purpose or whatever. But like at the start she was like, I don't care about going back to my other world. I'm like, Jesus, what about your granddad? He seemed nice. Like, oh my god. I felt kind of... They only mention him, like, once, but I felt kind of bad. I'm like, he, like, clearly cared for her. He was like, oh, I want you to stay, you know, you can be on your own, but I want you to be around, like, close to me or whatever, so I can, you know, check up on you and say hi and things like that. I'm like, oh, that's sweet. She's just like, I don't care about my other world. It doesn't matter. And I was just like, that's kind of mean. I'm like, what about your granddad? He seemed like he actually cared. I don't know. That's just a funny little observation that I noticed. I'm just like, man, her granddad really had the short end of the stick. He cared about his granddaughter, and she just like, I don't care. I don't want to go back. Who cares? My granddad's all sad, whatever. It's just like, oh, that was a little mean. But whatever, yeah. Final rating, like I said at the start, like 7, maybe even like a 6, depending on how you feel. There's really not much to this. It is just a time waster. I can jump in and read a little bit when I want. But yeah, I don't know. That's about it. You know, like, comment, subscribe, blah blah blah. Let me know if there's another, you know, story you want me to cover. Yeah, I'll see ya.